What's most important is that the fans at home, we were all winners here, brother. Like, two dudes, unheralded. Most casuals have probably never heard of them. But this is arguably the most exciting main event I've seen all year. What do you think?
And technical, Derek. Not only exciting, technical. There was power, there was control, rolls, man. The scrambles that were going on, and how, like I said, technical that these dudes were getting it done was absolutely impressive, man.
Yeah. So, but the question that I have for you right here, man, is that like this is the reason why the fans, the casuals, should pay a little more attention, because we saw this coming a mile away. But when it actually happened, it was even better than I imagined. I'm not gonna lie to you, it was even better because I was like, damn, man, the Granby rolls are incredible. The nonstop wrestling mitigating factor, the striking going 5 rounds, the experience between the two, and ultimately the two division KSW champion Mateusz Gamrot. He got the job done. But AJ, this cannot be completed. Our analysis cannot be completed without checking in on a couple of statistics. And those statistics ultimately look like this, man. You want to talk about razor close in terms of the striking edge? Well, let's talk about it, man, because I'm going to pull up right here the numbers, man, so we can just kind of go through it. So let's look at it. Not that one, but boom. All right. Arman Tsarukyan, Mateusz Gamrot. Look at these striking numbers right here, AJ. 110 total strikes to 108 total strikes in favor of Tsarukyan. 95 significant over 81 in favor of Tsarukyan. For takedowns, 1 of 8 for Tsarukyan, 6 of 21 for Gamrot. And I have to be honest there, a couple of those takedowns were very I don't know about all that. You know what I mean? It was one of those quick, like your knee touches the ground. It's like, oh, okay, we'll count it as a takedown. But when we're looking at the control time, I think that's the thing that ultimately won the fight for Gamrot, which is another one of those weird situations, but almost 5 minutes of control time compared to a minute and 40. But this is the real thing that we need to talk about here, AJ. Before I show the numbers, let's talk about it, me and you, brother. If you had to say a scorecard for this, and you don't have to be super approximate, man. I don't want to put you on the spot here, but in terms of like how large of a discrepancy between these fighters were, was it 3-2? Was it 4-1? How did you see the fight kind of playing out in terms of the scorecard?
This was a hard one to score for me, Derek. I had this one 3-2. I didn't even going into the fifth, but for me, it's all on how you score that first, little bit of the fight. Because I think Arman Tsarukyan came out strong, was looking good, but then both fighters had their moments throughout the entire thing. So it was this weird ebb and flow of the fight game that both fighters had their moments, and then the other one would have some. And then they kept going back and forth and back and forth. So I had it even going into the second, but I can see I was reading the scorecards online, or like through the Twitter post, and everyone's going, and some people are saying 3-0 Tsarukyan going into the third, or going into the fourth, excuse me. So it's weird to me because it's just, I didn't really have a good way to score it, to be honest with you, Derek. So that's why I had it going even into the fifth, and whoever wins that fifth is going to get it in my book. So very close fight. I'm not upset about the decision that was made, but I can see how other people would think that Tsarukyan won the fight.
Well, it's tough, man. It's tough, right? Because it's just a matter of what counts more: damage, control time, whatever. But I do think that the big swing rounds were rounds 3 and rounds 4. I think those were the 2 rounds where, depending on what you saw, that's who won the fight, right? So let's talk about it. Round 3, I think arguably you can give it to Gamrot. And I wrote down some notes for the good folks at home, because I did some scoring while I was watching the bout, just so I can have my analysis for it. So what I wrote down was this, folks. So just bear with me for 1 second. I said round 1, Tsarukyan gets the job done. Takedowns, effective striking, give that Tsarukyan, even though it was kind of a close round, tough to score. Round 2, Tsarukyan, more effective striking. At distance, he did a lot of those big body kicks, big leg kicks out of distance. I think he got the job done. Round 3, this was the swing one where I kind of edged it in favor of Tsarukyan, but I can totally see giving the round to Gamrot because of 2 takedowns plus control time, even though Tsarukyan did have a little more damaging strikes on the feet. However, AJ, this is where it gets tricky. Round 4. A lot of people are saying this should be Tsarukyan's round. I gave it to Gamrot, though, and it could be against all of the scoring criteria. It could have just been what you see at the end of the round is what sticks in your mind, right? Because that's a big thing for a lot of people, and the judges included. But Gamrot had takedowns, controls, submission attempts, and Tsarukyan just landed a little more damage, right? And then ultimately, the 5th round, which is, I think, whoever you wanted to win is who you chose to win because it was that close of a round. I gave it to Tsarukyan for cage control, damage, striking, all that good stuff once again. But Gamrot had control. He had, he did the little things that needed to be done. So now that I have that assessment of it, right, which I do think is more or less fair. I don't think that I'm too inclined in one fight or the other. Let's look at the actual scoring numbers, brother. So here we go. Mateusz Gamrot defeats Arman Tsarukyan. And let's look at these media scores, brother. Tsarukyan actually wins the media scores 15, I think, to 5 or 15 to 3, 6, like 7. 15 to 7, I believe, if I'm correct on that. And I'll zoom in for you a little bit, brother, so you can see. Look at that, man. Tsarukyan definitely holds the edge in terms of the media scorecards, and I don't know how much that means to you, but this is what I wanted to take a look at. So I say that Tsarukyan wins rounds 1 and 2. Well, he gets rounds 1 and 2 on every single scorecard. Now, for Sal D'Amato, basically gave Gamrot rounds 3, 4, and 5. So it's like, that's a real swing. Actually, if you look at it, it's unanimous. Everybody gives 3, 4, and 5 to Gamrot, which then makes us kind of beg the question of, okay, so round 3, I can see how you give it to Gamrot, but there's no consideration for Tsarukyan there. Round 4, okay, Gamrot, and round 5. I mean, yeah, if Gamrot just kind of edged it out by being busier, then he got the job done, brother. So, once again, we're not yelling robbery here. We're not yelling anything like that. We're yelling close fight. But I do have to say, does the media score mean anything to you in this situation, especially now that you've seen how, like, outweighed one is in comparison to the other?
It does. I think it weighs a little bit. Both sides, to be honest with you, good and bad. If you go back to those media scores, there's one person on that media score who scored a 50 to 46 or 45 for Tsarukyan. So that man didn't even watch the fight at all. I don't know. I was trying to, that's the name I was trying to look up. Dan something.
Dan
Urban.
Urban.
On the very bottom. Don't mean to call you out, Dan, but I mean to call you out a little bit because 54. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. But to that point, if you subtract, the one outlier, and then I'm sure there's another outlier on the other side of the coin, then you can really see the numbers still are leaning towards Tsarukyan.
Yeah.
And for me, and why I think I was more impressed with Gamrot for this fight, is the facts of the takedown and the control time. We didn't even see Islam Makhachev do that to Tsarukyan. And I think that's kind of what weighs a little bit more for me and why I wasn't necessarily screaming robbery or giving the fight to Tsarukyan in my book. Having that control time and those takedowns in that fifth round, man, Gamrot was deep in on a double leg, got him to the ground, kept the control, all for basically the last, I think Tsarukyan might have turned around the last 3 seconds. So that for me, that's kind of what does the most. But I still, I weigh pretty heavily on, or I think the media fans should weigh pretty heavily, and it shows us a discrepancy against the judges as well. Do you count it pretty big?
Well, it's something to take into consideration, right? Because I think Tsarukyan won the verdict vote too. So you get the fan vote, you get the media vote, but the judges don't see it your way. But then again, man, is that necessarily indicative of who won the fight? This is the real question, man. Can you go home and sleep well at night after seeing the outcome of this fight and just be like, okay, yeah, Gamrot got it done? Like, can you sleep well at night?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
There we go.
It's one of those ones where you're not losing sleep over. You might be like, damn, that was close, and then go to bed. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and that's it. And think about it. Arman Tsarukyan's 25 years old. Gamrot, he's about 31. Two-time KSW champion. Lots of 5-round experience. Arman Tsarukyan had never done a 5-round fight before. So as much as Tsarukyan was the favorite, and a lot of people, in my eyes, like I said, I saw it 48-47 Tsarukyan, but that's neither here nor there. Gamrot is the man to get the job done. And remember, AJ, I said this in the pre-show. I said, if there's one man to disrupt the UFC storyline, if there's one man to disrupt and throw a wrench in the plans of the Arman Tsarukyan Islam Makhachev potential rematch for the title at 155 pounds, it's Mateusz Gamrot. And now he says, I want anyone, anywhere. He's basically in that next queue for the next 2 or 3 fights to be fighting for that 155-pound title. So if there's a time to do it, it's the man in his prime at 31 years old who can wrestle with the best of them, scrambles jiu-jitsu with the best of them. Striking is pretty top-notch. And at the end of the day, what's the number one thing that stood out the most to me, AJ, is that Gamrot in rounds 4 and 5 is still looking like he's fighting round 2 and 3. That was the big mitigating factor because Tsarukyan, he didn't start giving up those takedowns like for real until rounds like 4 and 5. So experience played part right there, and Mateusz Gamrot got the job done, brother. So now that we've gone over it, we've seen the media scores, we've seen all of that, and even though some people might think that the judges screwed the pooch, I do think that this is a fight that needs to be set up for a rematch sometime down the road. Would you agree with me?
100%, man. The nice thing is these dudes are still young. I know. Mateusz Gamrot was 31, so still a little bit older, but still a very young fighter, man. We could easily see these dudes fighting in the next 2-3 years down the road. One of them has a strap. I think it'd be a great fight to run back. And I'm kind of excited to see what Gamrot does in the future, man. He wants Justin Gaethje.
Yeah.
That would be an absolute scrap. And then just going up from there, man, it's killer's row. So very entertaining fights for both of these dudes coming up in the future.
And imagine, look at that leap, man. You go from number 11, Tsarukyan, to Justin Gaethje. It's a pretty large leap. But either way, I think that the gamer is game for it, brother. Let's get it. All right.